Hello everyone. So in this session, we are going to see how we can set up the Docker, and then some overview about the Kubernetes, and maybe from that Azure DevOps we are going to see some demo. Okay, so we'll see what is the agenda for today, like the Docker local setup overview, because since you have requested yesterday, so we will try to run some type of commands in our local machine and how it is fetching, so everything we can see. And after that, some overview about the Kubernetes. As I said already, right, so the Docker run command, it will deploy the containers, but that's not the ideal way for the. So maybe when you are having the hundred or thousands of microservices, okay, so there are multiple Kubernetes orchestration tool is there, like Docker Swarm, Docker Compose, Microsoft Service Fabric. So there are many the Kubernetes orchestration is tool is there, but so as of now, the currently the winner is the Kubernetes, because they are providing actually they are providing so much of the built-in capabilities. So that's why, yeah, everyone they are moving towards Kubernetes. And then for example, so you have deployed to the Kubernetes platform, and how you can so there are, yeah, so we are going to see so what are all the architectural components, and so there are some kind of the classes and objects also there, so that we are going to see. And one of the object is like the services, how you are going to consume the application you are hosted in Kubernetes platform. So that is basically the networking, like you have created a one Kubernetes cluster, and inside that you have many uh, so you have many maybe API and front end. Maybe if you want to consume from outside, so how you are going to do that? So there are three type of service they are providing it, so that one we are going to see. And and then the Ingress controller, so similar like in the .NET application something, right, we will be having the route controller, maybe the route configuration. So for example, if the query string or the maybe the path is something like that, so you have to go to the particular controller. So something we will be specifying the route configuration, right? So similar like in the Kubernetes also, we will be having the Ingress controller, so that we are going to see. And then the AKA service deployment, maybe the we will create some so the demo part, right? So we will be creating some the Docker no, so we will be creating some Kubernetes cluster, and from the cloud shell we are going to deploy some sample application. So I think you will know what are the files needed. So there are multiple ways of deployment, right? So in that the cloud shell also we can deploy. And after that we are going to deploy from the Azure DevOps. So we will clone some the demo project, and then we'll see what are all the maybe the folder structure and what they have added in the CI/CD pipeline. So everything we are going to see. Okay. Yeah. So hi Amos, you have just seems you have joined now.
Hello, Selvan. Sorry, I'm late.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay, Amos. So Amos, did you try to set up the Docker in your machine?
Today it was like a hectic day,
Oh,
so I couldn't
okay,
do
okay.
anything.
Yeah.
Maybe
Okay, yeah.
sometime tomorrow.
Yeah, okay, Amma. So that's not a problem. So what I will do, right? So maybe I will show what are all the commands we are going to run. Okay. So for example, this one also, right? So it's a kind of very maybe the big application only. So maybe if you are having the maybe the maximum the RAM, right? If you are having more than 8 GB, or maybe if you are having the 12 GB of RAM, so that it would be somewhat fine. But maybe the 4 or 8 also, it will be your system will slow down. Okay. So that's why, so whenever maybe when during your installation, right, it will ask you like maybe whenever you are logged into that computer, at the time you want to start the Docker, or whenever you need. Okay. So that you can just provided an option like yeah, maybe whenever you need, at the time only you can just click on Docker, and then it will be started. Okay. So otherwise, right, it will take 4 GB of memory in the backend, because even if you're not working, right, it's a waste of the resource only. So even you cannot do any other operations. Okay, so for now, right, so for example, I have gone to the Docker desktop for Windows. Okay, so there is so you can just search like Docker desktop for Windows, and then you can download the 64-bit version of the Docker, and then you can just as usual, right, so you can just click on it, and then it will proceed all the installation. But here the only one thing here, right, so maybe some here the only one thing is like at the hardware level or at the OS level, we have to enable the virtualization. So there is a some concepts called virtualization. So because, right, so we are going to create many containers, which means like small virtual machine, right? So each and every those on containers, right, so everything it will be in the isolated manner only. Okay, so that so for functioning the Docker itself, we have to enable the virtualization. Okay, but by default, right, so most of the operating system, by default it will be enabled, but sometimes it won't be enabled. So during the time we have to go to the add Windows features on or off. So there is something there, right? So in that you have to go and you have to enable the hypervisor or virtualization something. Okay, so if you are stuck in something, maybe you can do Google search, you can find that one. But maybe otherwise, right, if you're not able to do, maybe we can discuss tomorrow also. Okay, so yeah, so the only one thing is like there will be some virtualization, so that may be block your installation. But yeah, so for that, yeah, there are many the websites are there, so you can get the information. So how to fix that particular one. So if it is the virtualization disabled, so what you need to do. So everything, yeah, you can see the instruction in the Google. Maybe you can do the Google search. Okay, so for example, right, so I have started. So for example, here I have the desktop icon, right? So if I want to just start, right, so I am just right click on it. So for my Windows configuration, right, it's a 8 GB of memory only. So I have allocated something around maybe 4 GB to the Docker desktop. Okay, so inside the Docker desktop, I have installed the Kubernetes also. Okay, so that's why so it will be very slow again, because even if you are installing the Docker, that is fine. But along with that, I have installed the Kubernetes also, so that it is maybe still it will take more memory and CPU resources. Okay, so for example, when you are double click on it, right, so it will take some time. So for me it is taking around 3 minutes. But maybe if you, maybe for based on your system configuration, the time to start up may be differ. Okay, so for example, here also right, you can see like the Docker the icon, and here it will be showing like the it is running. So otherwise, right, it will, if it is the starting mode or the crashed mode, so everything you can see the options here as well. Okay, so for example, so here this is the Docker UI. Okay, and so for example, so here you can see what are all the containers currently running. Okay, and so you can see the list of images currently presents here. Okay, and then the Docker volume means you can mount your host volume to here, so that whenever you are deploying, right, the Docker container, it will use your the system your system D drive or some drive it will take. So when you are deleting, right, so that still your persistent volume uh, will be in your maybe the D drive or C drive, wherever you are specifying. Okay, so for example, right, maybe the one more concept also I will say. Okay, so for example, whenever you are also, you have created the image. Okay, and then you have started the container. So the container means like the mini, the virtual machine. Okay, so they definitely, right, the virtual machine, it will have some disk space also, like to process some files or something, right? It also will have some kind of memory, the disk, maybe the hard disk I'm saying. Okay, so whenever you are deleting it, right, so the hard disk, the small portion of hard disk associated with the container also will be deleted. So when you are deleted the container, okay. So if suppose if you want to even if you are deleting the container, if you want to keep the hard disk, so at the time, yeah, you can use the volume. Okay, so but anyway, so we are not going to use the volume, but the only the one concept you want to understand is like so whenever the so for example, you should not keep any kind of the state in the containers basically. Okay, so for example, if you are processing some file, and then after processing the file, you should not keep that file anything inside the container. Okay, so after processing, you have to maybe push it to maybe the blob storage or any kind of FTP server something, because once the restart anything is happened, right, your the maybe the file storage or the disk quota, sorry, the hard disk associated with the container will be gone actually. So that's what, so mostly, right, you have to focus on the stateless related application only, like, so there are two kind of application, right, the stateful and then stateless. Okay, so the stateful means, for example, you are authenticating to the application, and in the memory it will store some session or something, and after that, when you are again logging to the same application, it will use the session from the server, and then based on that, it will maybe respond your the so it will respond the responses and all. Okay, but when you are restarting, right, so at the time it will delete all the sessions, everything. Okay, so that mostly when you are designing any kind of containers, so it should be like the stateless something. And also you should not, after processing, right, maybe the final output or any kind of file, you should not keep that in the containers. Okay, so why? Because when you are restarting the container or when you are deleting it, your all the output files, everything, it will be gone. So you got it right, Amos and Mebrod?
Yeah, so far okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just get it.
Okay, Amrad. Yeah. So and then here, right, so images on the disk. So I have installed the Docker desktop, and these are all the images I have. Okay, so for example, right, even the Kubernetes also, it will be running inside the Docker engine only. So that's why it is providing the maybe the Kubernetes orchestration functionality. Okay, so for example, right, if I am not installing the Kubernetes, so it won't be installed. So these are all the related to the Kubernetes related images. Okay, and so here the dev environments, like maybe here we can create some environment, but even I didn't use that. But mostly, right, so maybe when you're doing any kind of the maybe the containerization based development, so you will be using maybe the Docker compose, so for example during the testing purpose. But so you won't be using the Kubernetes in your local environment. So just for an example, I have deployed, but mostly in your real-time development, right, so mostly you will be testing your application from the Visual Studio, or maybe there you can attach the container for the testing. But after that, right, when you are deploying it, so it will be deployed into the it will be deployed into the maybe Azure only. So from that Azure only, you will be creating the dev environment, and then QA environment, and production environment. So there you will be creating the multiple cluster for each environment. There may be the one cluster, or maybe some other team, what they will do is like within the same cluster they will do all the environments, everything. Okay, so for now, here you want to understand like the container. So currently there is no container is running. Okay, and then the images. So what are all the images that are available now? Okay, and then here you want to note.
Sorry. Um,
Yeah,
so to install Docker,
yeah.
as a prerequisite, it's asking me that there needs to be container. Um,
Uh,
so a container and Hyper-V backend.
okay.
That's what it's asking.
Okay, so Mebrat,
So how do you
okay, Mebrat. So I'm not able to hear your question. So you are asking like, what is the prerequisite for installing the Docker in our machine, or is there any other thing?
right? Yes, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was trying to install, but it asks that prerequisites needs to be installed first, meaning
Okay. So
Hyper-V
nothing.
and
Yeah, yeah. So
in
not.
the container.
Yeah. So nothing prerequisite. So something. So for example, the only one maybe you can install the Docker. Maybe the Docker desktop, right? Maybe if you are
Yeah,
using the Mac, so you can install the Mac version, and if you are using the Linux, you can install the Linux version. So they will be supporting all the platform. Okay. So since you are using the Windows, so you can download the Docker desktop for Windows. Okay. And one more thing is like maybe the one more prerequisite like maybe your OS, maybe if you are using a Windows, right, the
yeah,
OS version should be like a Windows 10 Pro actually. So there are two versions, right, in the Windows 10 itself, the Home and Pro. I think Home they won't have the virtualization feature. Okay, like for example, I'm clicking on the turn Windows on or off. Okay, so here I have enabled the I have enabled the Hyper-V, right? So Amos, so can you please go? Sorry, Mebret, can you please go on mute? So
yeah.
it's echoing to me. Yeah, maybe after that you can unmute and then you can ask the query. Okay. So the only one prerequisite, mostly I'm hearing of like here, right? I am using the Windows 10 Pro version. So the operating OS, the Windows 10 Pro. So they will be having the support for the Hyper-V. So this is the one thing enabling the virtualization at the OS level. Okay. So for example here, right, if I am unchecking the Hyper-V feature, then definitely my Docker won't work. Okay. So in your case also, what you need to do is like, before that you have to install the Hyper-V. Okay, you have to enable it, and after that you have to click OK. And it because since I'm installed already, so it's not doing any kind of installation, but you have to install it. Okay, and after that you have to download the Docker desktop for Windows installer file, and you can just double click on it, so it will be automatically it will be installed. Okay, and maybe during the installation, right, it will be asking you when the Docker engine needs to be started, whether during your system login or whenever you need at the time you can start or not. So you can mostly, right, you can choose you can skip like whenever the system is logging in, because right, so it will take huge maybe the RAM, memory and CPU resources, so that when you're not using it, right, so you don't need to be the Docker desktop running. Okay, so whenever you need, so you can just double click on Docker desktop, so it will start, and then it will be provide the UI like this. So you got it, my bro. So only the thing is like you have to enable the Hyper-V in the Windows
Yeah,
features, and after that you can just install the Docker desktop,
sorry.
but you can just click on it. So if there is, yeah, maybe initially I'm facing so many issues like from the Windows 7, when I'm using the Windows 7, right, so we have to use the virtual box, and from the virtual box only we can do that. But even the Windows 10 home also, I think it won't have the direct support. So at the time I have to use the virtual box, and inside that I have to deploy something. But mostly you guys are using the Windows 10, right, so that will be the straightforward only. So I think there won't be much struggle there. Okay, so if you are facing something, you can do Google search. So you still, if you are not able to find, let me know, I will help you on that. Okay, my bro. I think my bro offline. Okay. So the one more thing, so Amazon, one more thing. So for example, right, the Docker Hub is the public repository for keeping all the images. Okay. So for example, right, these are all the images on the disk, which means like this is the local. Okay. And maybe here also you can configure the remote repository, and then whatever you want, you can just push it to the remote maybe repository. So in this case, right, I have created some Docker Hub account and my user ID is Tamil 555, and so these are all the images I have pushed from local to remote repository. So that is why it is displaying here. So you got it right. So
So
why
this,
the
yeah,
local
so these
remote?
are all the images you created, right? Like, and then what is on the local?
Yeah, in the local I have run the Docker pull something, and then I have installed the Kubernetes, right? So for functioning the Kubernetes, it has to install some other images and it needs to be run. So these are all the some of the images for running the Kubernetes orchestration tool.
Okay, so
Okay.
that doesn't come by default. So
Yeah,
this
yeah.
once you downloaded or you pulled.
Yeah, so for example, right, so here I have enabled the enable Kubernetes. Okay, so which means like by default it will so it will install some images, so when it is needed, yeah, it will run. Okay, so for example, yeah, so you got it right. But whenever I'm running the docker pull command, right, so it will be first coming into the local repository, and after that you can do um, the docker run command.
Mm. Okay.
Okay, so this is the, yeah, maybe, yeah, this is the Docker Hub, the account. Okay, and yeah, maybe for example here, right, I will be just trying to run some command. Okay, so for example, right, I will just make sure whether the Docker is running or not. Okay, the Docker version. So I think the Docker version it's don't need to be running. So for example, right, I'm so mostly, right, so to check the functional maybe whether the Docker is running or not, so they will be using this command, Docker run hello world. Okay, so mostly, right, so maybe this also some default maybe the command like to running the container. Okay, so for example, this is the image I'm specifying like hello world. Okay, so for example, I'm just saying list of images in my local machine. Okay, so these are all the images in my local repository. Okay, I couldn't see any kind of the hello world images there. Okay, so what it will do is like, so now I'm saying docker run hello world. Okay,
So when you say local repository, right?
yeah,
So as a Docker, when once you install the Docker, then it
yeah,
creates a repository.
yeah, so those are all the inbuilt in functionality, so it will create the local repository by default, so we don't need to do anything.
Okay.
Okay,
So that's how the tool gives
yeah.
you those options, and then when you pull it, then by default it goes to those
Yeah,
repository, right?
yeah. So the repository means like it's there is some kind of folder. Okay, like maybe in your so there is some temporary folder or there are many system folders are there, right? So inside that
Mm-hmm.
it will create some folder and then it will keep all the maybe the images. But even we don't know like what is the extension and all, but it can understand maybe those and all some system related files, right? So it can find, yeah, these are all the images currently it is there. It's not like maybe the zip file or something, it is some other thing. So that is the internally the docker itself managing, so we don't have any view or something.
Is it something you can show, like how to pull one of
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah, 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 yeah,
image?
yeah, I will show.
Okay.
Okay, so here, right,
Okay.
I have run docker run hello world. Okay, so the
Mm-hmm.
hello world image is not present in the local repository. So here you can see, right, so these are all the
Mm-hmm.
image name like desktop Kubernetes AP server scheduler proxy something. Okay, so but it is not there. What it is showing like unable to find image hello world latest locally, and then it is currently it is pulling from library slash hello world. So once it is not finding from the local machine, it will be searching in the public repository, the GitHub, sorry, the Docker Hub, the public repository, and now it is fine. So that is why it is pulling the image actually. Okay, and
Oh.
it is pull the image and find. So here it is showing like the downloaded newer image for hello world latest, and so I have run the container, right, so the inside the hello world the image what they have written is like hello from docker. Okay, so this is the command they have written, so that's why it is displaying here. Okay, so once that the docker is running, right, maybe after that there is no command, so that's why immediately it is coming out of the the container actually. Okay, so for example, now I'm running the images now. So here you can see the Docker, the hello world also. So yeah, so here you can see, right, the hello world image.
Okay.
Okay, so because you just pulled for running the previous container, right? And also you can say Docker containers. By using this command, you can see what are all the containers currently running.
Okay, it shows like 2 months ago. So is it like the image creation did not created on your local repository? Is it right?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's not like even now we have pulled. So maybe the when they have updated the latest version is like the 2 months ago. So when they have created the latest tag is, yeah, 2 months ago. It's not like when we are pulling it.
Okay.
Okay, and then maybe currently, right, there are no containers currently running. Okay, and I am just running docker ps command. So this one also you can I think by the both having the same meaning only. Okay, so the docker, mostly in the Linux world, right? So the ps means the currently running processes. Okay, so the processes and container mostly the similar meaning, so that's why they are giving the same option. So even if you are running the docker ps command, it will show what is the currently the container is running, and maybe you can run the docker container ls command also. Okay, and now we will see. So now you got it, right? Maybe I will say one more docker pull, and maybe this time I am pulling a nginx image. Okay, so if you're not specifying any kind of tag here, right, it will specify the latest tag. Okay, otherwise, right, if you want something like 3.1 or 4.0, so those things you have to explicitly specify. Otherwise, it will take the default, the latest tag.
So when you're saying tag, is it like the version number?
Yeah, yeah, version number. Yeah, here it is. They are saying it
Okay.
like the tagging.
Okay.
Okay, so now you are clear, right? Like the container creation.
Mhm.
So I have just run docker run command, so it is created, and the pulling the images, and then yeah, maybe how to list the docker containers and then images we have seen. Okay, and one more thing is like how you are going to create the image. So as I said already, right? So at the time you need to have the docker file. So with the docker file only you will be you can create the image. Okay, so we will say one example for that. So currently it is pulling now. So the nginx is basically a web server. So similar like IAS and Tomcat, right? So nginx also one of the popular the web server. Okay.
Okay.
So I will terminate this one, but anyway, it will take some time. Okay. So for example, as I said already, to build an image, we need the Docker file. Okay. Notepad. I'm just creating the Docker file now. So it should not have any extension. So the name itself Docker file. That's it. Okay. I'm just creating a.
So it's like a new image.
Yeah, no, I'm so because right. So the nginx image is someone created and then pushed to the repository. That's why I have pulled to my local machine. Okay. In
Okay.
some scenario, right? So you have to build an image for your API project. So at the time, what you will do, you need to create the Docker file. You need to build it. So after that, you will have a image for your API project. So
So what
got
is the
it, right?
notepad is doing?
So so without the notepad, how we will edit the file? So this is for editing the file. So for example, right?
Oh,
Uh, so for example, I'm just because even I don't like to go and create the maybe the notepad file, maybe the file in the uh, file explorer. So this is somewhat easy way. Okay, so when you are running the notepad and here, right, so it will open the notepad. I'm just copying the command, like here we have copied, right. Okay, so here they are saying like the base image is like Alpine image. So this is one of the Linux distribution, and so nothing. So this is the Linux one, and basically, right. So in the Linux, you can just run the echo, and then echo it will work like just printing something from the console. Okay, so this image, what it will do is like it's nothing inside there. When you are running the container, what it will say like hello Stack Overflow. That's it. Okay, because we don't have any functionality right there. Like you want to expose the port 80, and then you have to copy the web application code, and you have to run the this command like .NET and then web application the name. So nothing here. Maybe that we will be seeing in the maybe when we are deploying from the Azure DevOps, right? At the time we will see some Docker file for the .NET Core project. Okay, but currently we are just going to create a one sample image. So that image, what it will do is like it will just create a it will just print a hello world, hello Stack Overflow in the console. That's it. You
So
don't.
Alpine is the image name, right?
Yeah,
So that's what
Antpine.
the image
Yeah,
you are going to create.
Antpine also one of the base image. Okay.
So base image you are creating, or you are going to use that image?
Okay, so for example, right, we have pulled nginx image. Okay,
Yeah.
so here we have build some nginx image, right? But if I
Mhm.
am going to use the same nginx image, and on top of that, I am going to add some of my custom implementation. So at the time, what you can say is like you can take the nginx image. So and after that, I can do whatever the customization I have to do. Okay, so for example, right, the nginx image also, it may be for that nginx image, the base image may be the Alpine image. Okay, this is something like the Linux, maybe the starting level maybe like this is the Alpine is the Linux, one of the Linux distribution, right? And on top of that, they are adding some nginx server here, and then finally they are naming it like nginx, so that inside the nginx image it will have the Alpine and then nginx server. Okay, but if I am taking the nginx image here, and on top of that I will be adding some kind of maybe other file or something. Okay, so this is something like base image, Amos. Okay, so for example, the yesterday, right, so we have seen like the ASP netcore 3.1, that is the
Mhm.
runtime, right? So which means like it's not mean like only the .NET core will be there. It, in between the image, it will have the Windows Nano core, the operating system related files also will be there. Okay,
Okay.
yeah, so this is something
So
like base image for the
like
particular,
a
yeah.
open source, we are going to use this one as a base.
No, it's not like open, but here anyway, all of the things, right, it's open source only. Maybe
Okay.
whatever you are just finding it from the Docker Hub, that is the open source.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So for example, in my example, right, so someone pushed a Alpine image, and on top of that, I'm just going to add some of the customization. That's it. Okay.
So do you have this Alpine on your repository right now, on
No,
your local?
currently I don't have, but when I'm just running the build, right, so at the time it will pull the Alpine and then it will create a new image. So
Okay,
currently we
that's
don't
what I was
have,
thinking.
but when you are building the image, right, at the time it will
Mhm.
download it, and after that it will create a new image called maybe whatever we are providing in the build command. Okay.
Okay.
So for example, I'm just created it. Okay. So you can see like why it is created as the. I think it should not expect the .txt. Uh,
Yeah, that's what some command it was
yeah.
asking you, like when
Yeah.
you are trying to
Oh.
open on the notepad.
Oh. I don't know. Maybe I didn't know it is that, but I think this command it will work, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So now the another command is like to build an image. Okay. Uh, Yeah, so this is the hyphen T. I think hyphen T it's for tag or okay. So mostly, right, so wherever you are seeing the dot means like it's the current directory. Okay, so where it will look the Docker file, so that it will look the Docker file in the current directory. The current directory is the Kubernetes. Okay, so it will look for the Docker file and after that it will create it. Okay, so mostly the hyphen T means the tag name or no, I think the image name only currently. Okay, from okay, I think this is the image name only. So for example, when I'm running it, it will create the hello image. So I think currently it is downloading, right? Alpine, the latest version, the latest
Mhm.
tag. Okay, so now I'm running Docker images command. I think it will show Alpine and as well as hello. So hello, right? It is just I think here also it is showing like 7 days ago. But here Alpine image, hello. Here it is, but the Alpine image it is not. Maybe I think we are mentioning in the Docker file, but I think it is downloading it, but it is not displaying it here. Maybe I will Docker pull thing. Still it is downloading once again. I think this is not referring from the local or yeah, here it is saying, right, it is already exist because when we are maybe when we are building the hello image, right, at the time itself it will download the Alpine. So that's why when I'm pulling it, it is saying like it is already exist something. Okay,
Mhm.
okay, so now I'm running Docker run hello. I think it will show like some hello Stack Overflow. Okay, so this is something like a basic Docker file, but mostly what maybe in our real case what we will do is like um, so you will be you will be, so for example if you're deploying the .NET core maybe the API project, right, so at the time you will be have writing some the maybe the statements like you want to expose the 80 and 443 port for HTTP and HTTPS, and then you will be copying all the binaries, maybe whatever your release output, right, so you will be copying there, and after that once the container is started, right, so which command needs to be running, so those details we will be providing. So that's it, apart from that nothing actually. So this is the basic overview, Amos. So from the Docker
Mhm.
so you got it right, like but yeah, even there are many things. So for example if I want to push this image, right, I want to Docker, I think Docker tag and source image like hello and latest and my repository name, right? So here we need to provide the target image and then tag. Okay, I think here we need to provide the so here so currently my image name is hello and then tag is latest. So what I need to tag is like Tamil slash hello and then December 2. So maybe you can say like this is my tag name. Okay. So now the it will create the yeah it is created with this name, right? So what I need to do now is like docker push push refers to repository docker.io tag does not exist. Okay. So now you understood, right, Amos? So how to push the image to repository? Okay. So for example, we have to create the tag first. Okay. So with the repository name, we have to provide that. Okay. The Tamil 555. This is my Docker Hub account name, right? So this one I have to provide. And after that, I have to just run the Docker push Tamil 555 hello colon December 2 because I have already logged into the the Docker one. So that is right.
So
So for
what is the previous command? So if you go back to
the Docker tag, so my local
okay.
image name is hello colon latest. So in that one,
Hmm.
I am appending my repository name also. The Docker Hub repository also mentioning Tamil 555
Okay.
slash hello December 2. And after that, I'm just running, doing the Docker push and then this, the image
So
name.
when you are doing a tag, it creates like an image with the December 2.
Yeah, no, it's not like so it will the same image only like here the hello, right? But just I'm
Hmm.
changing the image name and then the tag.
Okay. So on this image only is getting pushed, right?
Yeah.
Like on the
So
bottom.
for example, right? So when I'm doing the push command, so at the time it will expect the repository also. So that's why we have to create with the repository name. So the Tamil 555, right? So it will assume this one as the repository name, image name, and then the tag name. But here, right, it is just having the image. So that's why we can't push it to the repository.
So now this pushed to your repository. So if you go online, that's what you see.
Yeah. So
Updated
here,
a few seconds ago.
yeah.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
But
So
it didn't ask for any like user ID, password, or anything. How is the security working
yeah,
in this
so
thing?
I said right. So already it will be. So I think you can run the Docker login command. So and then it will ask you the username and password. So because I'm already logged into the console, so that's why it is pushing it to the correct the repository. Otherwise, right, it won't push the image. Like
Maybe that part I missed it. So maybe I need to go back to the video.
yeah. So for example, right. So this is the Docker login command. And maybe here I think maybe you can provide the password directly there or something. And yeah, maybe I will just run the Docker. Yeah, mostly almost. So you can just run the Docker login command. Okay, so it will ask you the your Docker Hub username and password, and after that you
Okay.
will be authenticated with the Docker Hub, the Docker Hub, and maybe from there onwards, so you can just specify your the code name and then this one, so you will be able to push the image to the Docker Hub.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. So now you are clear with the some local setup overview, right? So what are the commands we are
Mhm.
mostly running, and
Yep.
so the next thing, right? So we will be going to uh, the Kubernetes. Okay. So for example, team like so for example, right? Whenever in the CI/CD pipeline, so creating an image, right? So that will be come till the CI pipeline. Okay, so for example, doing the checkout and compiling the your package and then creating an image and pushing it to some image repository, right? So the last time we pushed it to the Docker Hub. Okay, so similar case you may be pushing it to Azure Container Registry, or maybe within your company they might be having some other registry also. Okay, so till you are pushing it to the registry, that is the standard only. So there is no change in that. Okay, but how you are going to deploy your container? So that is the one thing. So in this place only the Kubernetes and all comes into the picture. Okay, so for example, like the last time, right? We just ran the Docker run and then the image name, so we are able to deploy it, and then we are also see the some output also, it is printing some messages in the console, something. Okay, but in the real time, right, so everything it will be the API application, and you will be having many you will be having actually maybe the number many number of microservices you will be having. Okay, so in those scenario you cannot run the application manually every time. And also one more thing is like, if there is some problem, right, the Docker container is not working. Okay, so the last time we ran the container, right, so after some time it is stopped. But even, right, until unless if anyone see that one, so it will be still in the crashed mode only, it will be in the stopped mode only. But it don't have the maybe the self healing capabilities and all the Docker doesn't have. But from the Kubernetes, right, so you can specify this is my the definition, this is my application should look like. And so the Kubernetes, it will make sure that so all the containers running in the same mode. Okay, the same state, like if I'm specifying like the nginx image, the particular thing I need to have the 4 containers, so it will always check the health check also, like for every 15 seconds, 10 seconds. So those and all the inbuilt-in capabilities, it will check the health of the container frequently. And if there is something not good, right, so what it will do is like it will stop the container, and then it will spin up the new container. Okay, because so even in our container approach also nothing like the stateful, so that yeah, you can delete the existing container, you can create the new one, so that there is no change in the behavior actually, because the it is deleted the 3.1 version, the tag, but you are going to spin up the again the 3.1 only, so it's not going to be any. the change in the functionality and all. Okay, so for example, right, you are specifying like 4 instances, which means like the one is not healthy, so that it will delete the fourth one. So so during the time, right, so the only the 3 containers only it will take all the requests, and then it will serve all the requests and all. Okay, so once the fourth container is coming into the steady state, and from there onwards the load will be equally splitted into the 4 uh, the containers, the 4 instances. Okay, so basically, right, so the important advantages like the self healing, and then automatic deployment, and then the scaling also. Okay, so for example, Amos, you can say maybe you are maintaining some you are going to deploy your application, let's say the 100 microservices there. Okay, so can you deploy everything in your host machine itself, or if it is in your host local machine something, right, how much you can scale it?
I don't know whether I'm fully
Yeah.
understanding what you're asking, Phil. I'm sorry.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, no problem, Mama. So, for example, right, so you are having the very, very good configuration laptop system, okay? Like you are
Mhm.
having 100 GB of RAM, okay? But still, right, even you are, so even, so those and all, they will be calling it like the vertical scaling, okay? So, currently, I'm having the 8 GB of RAM, but I'm installing just a 4 container. So, for 4 container, the 8 GB of memory is that is fine. So still I can do all my work with the same fast everything. Okay, but if I currently I want to install the maybe the 20 containers. Okay, so at the time I definitely need to scale up my configuration, like so right. So for example, 8 GB to 32 GB or 16 GB.
Mhm.
Okay, but even if still I need 100 services, I want to increase 100 GB RAM or something. Okay, so when you think like the vertical scaling, right, so increasing the only one system the hardware resources like memory, RAM and CPU, so that cost is very higher. Okay, for example, the 32 GB machine, the cost will be higher, and then the 64 that will be more higher than this one. But instead of vertically scaling, right, you can buy two machine actually. Two 16 GB machine, you can easily buy it. Okay, but it will be the less cost only when compared to the single machine, the 64 GB something. So you got it right, Amos and my bro.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, and this is how. Yeah, okay, so that is why even the Kubernetes, it will create the cluster. Okay, so for example, it will manage the group of nodes. So for example, you can attach the 10 virtual machine, and then it will assign in which node your container needs to be running. Okay, but it will always maintain whatever the number of instances, right, it will always maintain the same definition always. Okay, but if you need more maybe the scaling something, right, you can attach one more node also, because the cloud, right, so when on demand you can attach the new VM, that's it. But if you don't need, you can remove the maybe the other 4, maybe you can keep it running the only the 2 VM, the 2 node mission only. So you can achieve the, so based on the resource you are scaling your application, right, so that this is possible with the Kubernetes cluster. So the Kubernetes it will manage the group of maybe the number of nodes. So and it will, the Kubernetes, it will say like in this node this container needs to be running. Okay, so for example, due to maybe the Amazon and maybe the Flipkart and all, they are doing some big billion day for big sale, right? At the time there may be the heavy the traffic, it will be coming, so the same resource it may be it won't be the sufficient, right? So at the time what they will do is like they will be scaling up the resources based on the usage. Okay, so at the time they will add 4 more new node. Okay, so that maybe it can, maybe the more traffic, right, so it will be equally distributed across the multiple nodes in the Kubernetes cluster. Okay, but after the big billion days over, right, so that you can remove other 4 machine, so you can just keep it running only the 2 machine. Okay, so that you can you are having the good scaling options also with the Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so one option is like the self healing. Even the container is not healthy, and even it is not performing well. Maybe the RAM is full or due to memory leakage or something. So it will just delete the container, and then instead of that it will create a new one. And also the scaling option also, so based on your demand you can scale up, scale down, because it is managing the node, so it will create the cluster of nodes, right? So that you can do that. And then the deployment also, it will be very easy, because you are just setting up some kind of YAML definition, and you are providing it to Kubernetes, and then it will take the image from the image repository, and then it will deploy whenever it is required. So you don't need to do any kind of the deployment activity like Docker and image name. You don't need to provide that. So you understood, right? So where the Kubernetes coming into the picture. Okay, but still the Kubernetes also, it will host the application in the Docker runtime only. But on top of it, it is having some other capabilities like the clustering, and then automatic deployment and self healing. So that is why everyone, they are going with the Kubernetes as the orchestration tool. So you got it right, Amos.
So where do you give this or define these configurations?
Okay.
Like for the scale up, scale down, all those
Yeah,
configuration kind of
those and all, right? So when we are creating the maybe uh, for example, right, so this is the Kubernetes, this is the open source tool, and they from the Azure, right? So they are providing AKS, Azure Kubernetes Service. So they are providing the platform as a service. So when you are creating a resource in the Azure, right, so there you will be having the option to the scale up and the scale down related configuration. Okay, by I think by default, I think you can initially specify the node count, and inside the maybe the properties page, you can specify the scale in and scale out configuration and all. Maybe, yeah, when we are creating the AKS cluster in Azure, right, so at the time you can see that.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so here, right, so this is the master node, like this is the cluster master, and this is the node actually. So here you can see the number of node is there, right? So this is what maybe the Kubernetes architecture actually. Okay, the master, and under that there will be many nodes, it will be connected to it. Okay, and then here, right, so there are many components also there, like so inside the master node, right? So master, it would be only one node, but the node can be many number of nodes. Okay, and then inside the master node, there are some kind of components like etcd. It is for storing the secrets and key value pair something, and then the API server. So for example, when you are interacting with the Kubernetes, right? So at the time API server only, it will respond. Yeah, these are all the containers are running. These are all the crashing. So those details, right? So those details and all from the API server only we will be getting it. Okay, and even there are some kind of kubectl command line as like Docker. So the kubectl command, it will just interact with the API server, and after that only it will respond the result to us. So similar like the Docker container, right? The Docker images. So similar kind of commands from the kubectl also, there are some kind of commands are there. So the kubectl command line utility, so it will just check with the API server, and then it will respond the it will check with the cluster, and then it will respond the responses. Okay, and then the scheduler. So for example, you will be specifying the YAML definition, right? Okay, and then it will say where it has to schedule, like which node is currently available. So for example, right, you are maybe in the ideally, so all the node will have the same configuration, but some scenario, right, maybe if you are configuring your own cluster. Okay, at the time one node having the 4 GB of RAM and another one having the 32 GB of RAM. So all the scheduling and all, where it has to schedule, so all of the things the scheduler will be decide. Okay, and then controller manager, this is the running process. It will controls everything, whether it is going whether everything is going good or not, is there any problem. So those things and all, controller manager, it will be managing everything. Okay, and then inside the node, so you can see like the kubelet, and then the container runtime. So the container runtime means the Docker. Okay, so because in the node only you are all your containers and all going to run. Okay, to run a container you need the container runtime, so that is what the Docker. Okay, on top of the Docker container runtime, the container is running, and then kubelet is like maybe it is the intermediary from the master to the uh, maybe the node, like if maybe, so first of all it will provide instruction to the kubelet, and then kubelet only will do the all the kind of the deployment and all here, and then it will get the metrics from the host machine, and then it will report to the cluster machine. Because this is something like architectural components, like what each and every one is doing something, but in the real time, right, we cannot see everything, because these are all some kind of the theoretical concepts, like how the Kubernetes developed and how it is working. Okay, but in the higher level, right, you can see like these are all the master node, and then the child node something, and then these are all the components it will be there, and but from our side, so those are the just basic concepts, and then the kubectl command line just to interact with the Kubernetes cluster. So that is enough. So you got it, Amos?
So each container is going to have the image and the whatever the microservices we are going to deploy. So that is going to be sitting within the container, right?
Yeah, definitely, right. So without the image, you cannot spin up the container. So container, so image means like, so for example, right, you have built your API project. Finally, you got
Mhm.
some image. Okay. So that you want to deploy somewhere. Okay. After deploying the image, you are getting the container. So that is the runtime version. So after creating a container only, which means like your image is deployed. Okay. So image means like you can just say like the release output something. Okay. But
That's
with
what
this, yeah. So
that's what, like, practically speaking, like when we are saying an image is like nothing but like when you take an image off on server, right? So
yeah,
which will be
snapshot or
having all the
something. Yeah,
correct. So
snapshot or something.
is it the same technology
Yeah,
we are
yeah. The
talking about
same.
the image?
Yeah, maybe for example, right, you need some virtual machine. Okay, so they
Mhm.
will be using some kind of image, right? So for example, the Windows 2016 server, and inside that SQL server to be installed, so that will be the, yeah, so that is some kind of
That
snapshot. From that only you are creating a one virtual machine. Yeah, the similar
right.
concepts only, yeah, inside that the particular the artifacts will be there. So maybe the inside the image, right, maybe whatever the
Mm.
base the small OS, and on top of it whatever the instruction you are providing, and then your application binary will be there. Yeah, maybe you can say the same concepts, almost maybe in the lighter version.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the lighter version of the maybe other virtual machine and all.
Right. So virtual machine is like the heavyweight server, we can say, and
Yeah,
this is like a lightweight component which can run the same application kind of stuff.
yeah, correct, yeah.
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 Yeah, so Mebra, do you have any query?
Yeah, actually, the Docker still it's failing. The Docker engine failed to start, so I was wondering if
Oh, okay, what error it is showing, Mebra?
it just showed Docker engine failing to start. Doesn't have specification.
Oh, okay. So, what is your system configuration, Mebrot?
It's Windows Pro 10.
Okay, and then the maybe the RAM,
Mm,
the
hold
memory,
on.
maybe here, right, in the task manager.
So, what is this? It doesn't have a specification for that.
No, no, no. I think mostly right. Otherwise, you can just to try restarting the machine once. And mostly, I'm maybe, yeah. You can just share your screen, Mebrot. So I will give you the
Oh,
presenter
okay.
mode. So you can just share now.
Hmm.
Okay.
Till do we have the class till like 10:30 or 11?
Yeah.
So,
So today we can have till 11 almost. So I don't have any meeting today.
Okay.
Okay. So here, right, the virtualization is enabled. That is fine. And you are also having the 8 GB of machine. So that also fine. And okay, you can close this one. But I think that is
Same
fine.
station.
Docker engine failing to start. So you can click on the settings in the top right.
Mm. So settings.
Okay, click on resources. Maybe under the general, right, you can uncheck the first checkbox. Abroad. Maybe you don't need.
This one.
Yeah, yeah. It's not a big deal. It's like no, no, no. Don't restart now. You can do later. So it is just
Right,
like
yeah.
yeah. Start Docker when you leave. Okay, you can go to resources tab now. Um, Advanced. Go one by one. Okay. Click on Kubernetes. Okay, I think so far.
Maybe
No, no,
enough.
no, no. You don't need to enable it for now. I think still the Docker itself it's not running. Maybe, my brother, you can take. Maybe you can try after our training. You can just restart the machine and after that you can try once. But as far as I see, right, the virtualization is enabled, so it has to work.
Right.
And one more thing, maybe your Windows, the OS version is the 10 Pro only, right? It's not like 10
Yes.
Home.
No, it's Pro.
Okay. Mm, yeah, you can just click on apply and restart, remember? Click on apply and restart.
Actually, I restarted earlier. Uh,
Okay. But it,
and you know, if I restart,
yeah,
it will
the
close
same.
everything. But
Yeah, but it will take. So how long it took for restart, and then
it,
currently it is saying like it is not running or some problem.
it was showing like something related to Linux.
Okay. Okay, my brother. So maybe currently I don't have anything. Maybe yeah, you can just try apply and restart. I will say some other URL where to check the Docker the runtime log. So I think from there we can see like
Will there
Okay.
what is the problem.
will there be any error on the event viewer?
The event viewer, I don't think the event viewer they are logging there, but I think mostly right. Maybe I'm not having the maybe the working knowledge with event viewer, almost. So do you know how to check that one?
On the event viewer,
Yeah.
you can search for the event viewer and it will get you the logs.
Okay. So my brother, you can just search that.
Here?
Yeah, so the top one.
Mm,
So in the meantime, I will just check where
so you
the
meant
Yeah, on the application side.
Mm, no, okay.
Yeah, it's loading.
Maybe it's slow. Okay. Mm,
Information. So, no, I don't see. Oh, here. What is that? That's a SQL Server.
yeah, this is something.
Yeah, Selvan said there might not be anything logging here on the event viewer.
Okay, yeah. So
okay. So, this is MySQL, right? Okay.
no.
Okay, so maybe Membrad, you can try one more thing. So you can just search on add the Windows features on or off. Maybe we can see there. Yeah.
Which one?
Type Windows features on or off. Features.
Oh,
Yeah. So yeah, that one.
it's enabled.
Okay. Yeah,
You are
here
looking.
it is
You can.
enabled. Okay. So scroll down. I think there will be Linux subsystem. Something it will be there.
Oh,
I
maybe
don't know
one.
if that is required or not.
Minutes.
Linux subsystem for Windows. Something it will be there. Go up.
Mm,
It's not there.
no.
Okay. So otherwise, expand Hyper-V. I think it is all the things. It is expand Hyper-V.
Hyper-V is already.
No. It is above. It is on above. Yeah. Expand that one. Yeah. Expand all. Okay. I think everything is checked. Maybe I will check in my system configuration. Uh,
Okay. Mm.
uh, Yeah, I think it was last Membrod. So Windows subsystem for Linux. Yeah, the last one. Yeah, this one also checked already. The last third,
Um,
right? From the last, the third one. Windows subsystem for Linux.
um, yes. Okay.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, maybe
Um,
mostly Membrod it will
mm,
work actually. So you can just try restart and after that you can try
all
once
right.
again. Okay, maybe you can restart whole your machine and after that you can just try to start the Docker engine because I think it's everything it's fine only. But you can just verify once again almost like the Windows 10 Pro something. Uh, but anyway, you are sure, right? So you are using the Windows 10 Pro only. Okay.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
true.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, my brother. So it will work. Maybe you can just try restarting, and after that you
Oh,
can just start the Docker container. Maybe if it is not working, maybe we'll see. But after the Docker installation, you didn't restart your machine, right? Or you?
that's yeah.
Okay.
That's why I was like a log of 2 times
Okay.
on the
Okay.
same.
Yeah. Okay. So I will take a. I will share my screen.
All right.
So in Windows 10, it is showing app data local docker log.txt. So which one is app data?
Mm, app data maybe in the event viewer Amos, or you are saying some other maybe the
I don't know. When
debugging.
I'm looking for the file location, right?
Hmm.
It says like percentage app data, percentage and local docker log.txt.
Okay, in the which location maybe you can ping in the chat. Maybe I think Mebrad can see is there any the debugging file or error file. Maybe Mebrad can check that place
Yeah,
actually.
let me get that URL.
Okay.
Mm, okay. I'll check that. What is the okay.
I don't see the chat box itself.
But you can see the chat. Maybe I don't know how the UI looks like. Maybe I'm just pinging you
Okay.
Amos. Okay, maybe enter.
Uh,
So did you see my ping, right?
yeah, yeah, now I can see it.
Yeah.
So if I do this one, did you see my URL?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe okay. I will
So if you
copy.
if you scroll to almost like quarter of the page,
Okay. So Mebrad, you can see the URL, right?
No, I'm not able to
Okay.
see.
I don't know.
Yeah, if you scroll a
Yes.
little bit down, Ceylon,
Okay.
Yeah, now I can see from Selma.
still further down.
Mm.
Where to find daemon?
Yeah, here, file equation. Yeah,
Okay, the
for the
Windows
Windows
10
10, it's showing app
app
data.
data. Okay, so for example, maybe C and then users HP, and here the Docker, or
I see .docker on your folder, right?
okay, yeah, maybe this one, and
There is no log.
I think log.txt. I think maybe there is something like app data folder, yeah, and then local and
C users, no, C users and then your name, like what the username is.
yeah, that is what the HP. So my
Oh,
machine name is HP, and app
okay. App
data
data.
and local, yeah, that is fine. And Docker, I don't see any Docker. Okay, Docker is there, and
Okay.
then here the log.txt. Okay.
Yep, that's it.
So, Mebrad, you can see the log file there. Maybe, yeah, you can just see the restart if that's working or not. Yeah, otherwise, after that, yeah, you can see the log file also. So, why it is failing. Yeah, thanks,
Okay.
Amos.
You're welcome.
Okay. Yeah, okay, Mebrad. Maybe in your daytime, right, you can just see that. I think mostly, right, I am also will be facing the same issue, but after the restarting, it will work. So, I think the first time,
All right.
yeah. So now, yeah. So far, yeah, we have seen the maybe the what are all the advantages of the Kubernetes, and then some kind of architecture, right? Like master and the node based architecture, like so under the under the cluster, so there will be many nodes, so based on our application weightage basically. So if it is the so number of microservices you are trying to deploy, but anyway you have to increase the number of node also at the time. Okay, and then the objects. Okay, so for example here the objects means like but in the Docker, right, so we are saying like we are running the containers. Okay, but here they will be calling it like pods. Okay, the pods means so inside the pods file we will be having the number of containers, we will be specifying the number of containers, so that's what the parts. And the deployments, so those everything we can configuring it in the YAML file. Okay, so we will see in a minute actually. Okay, so the parts file and then the deployments, so the deployments also inside the deployment file we can specify all the services and the parts and config maps, everything. Okay, and then the services after you deploy the maybe the parts, right, so you have to route your our request call to the particular container. So that is what the services it is doing. So maybe we'll see what are all the services the Kubernetes is allowing. And then the config maps, so you know already, right, so anyway our the Kubernetes, right, so when we are running the multiple maybe the parts or containers, at the time it will expect some kind of configuration also. Okay, so all the things like in the key value pair we will be mentioning it, and then all the parts, right, it will read the configuration from the config maps. Okay, and then the next one is like secrets. Maybe if you are storing some kind of the username, password, or key or certificate or any kind of the things, you can use the secrets object. Okay, and also, right, even if you are keeping the secrets inside your cluster, so that's not the best practices. So in such cases, you have to integrate with Azure Key Vault. Okay, so we have already seen, right, like how to create the Azure Key Vault and how to create the username and the key and password there. Okay, so once we have created the vault and the vault URI, we have to specify, and so that whenever the application or the container is trying to fetch the particular secret, it will read the value from the key vault. Okay, and then the replication controller or replica, they will say, like this is for example, right, the pod I'm saying. Okay, so how many parts I maybe how many replica I need to run it for the pod. Okay, so for example, the pod means one application. Inside the pod we will be having the mini container. Okay, so for example, I want to run the two replica for the pod, which means like whatever the container specified in the pod, so it will be replicated twice. So that is what the replication controller it will do. Okay, so basically, right, you can just assuming it like, so this is the all the container information it will be there. Okay, the deployment means, yeah, the container information service, so all the things, mostly all the things will be there. Okay, and the services means once your application or container is or pods is running, how the network traffic and all it needs to go. So that is what the services. Okay, the config maps for maybe doing the maybe you can store the key value pair, like whenever the container is requested particular configuration, it can read the value. So that is what the config map. And the secret means if you want to store any kind of the secret, maybe the username, password, or the API key, something, the secured thing, right, you can read from the secrets. Okay, and then the replication controller, if you want to do maybe replicate the pod or deployment, so that you can specify it in the replication controller. Okay, so first we will see the pod YML file. Okay, yeah, so here, right, so this is the pod YML. Okay, like here, right, when you are specifying the in the kind value, right, if you are specifying like deployment services or maybe the config map secrets, so that accordingly you have to change the specification. Okay, so this is the pod, right, so that's why I'm specifying like these are all the containers I need to run it. Okay, this is the front end container, and then this one is something they are naming it like the RSS reader. Okay, in the front end they are just using the this container, right, they are just using the nginx container, and for the next RSS reader, right, they are using the this particular image, and then they are exposing in the port 8080. Okay, so when I am deploying this one, right, so it will just deploy the those two containers, like front end and then RSS reader. So I said already, right, the pod means it will be having the one or more containers. Okay, so for example, in your application, right, like maybe RSS site, so that maybe your pod name, maybe it can be equivalent to application name. You can have the number of containers specifying here. Okay, so for example, when you are deploying it, it will basically read the, it will fetch the image from the repository, and then it will run it in the Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so almost, so for example, right, so this is something simple only, like I said, right, there are many kind of objects in the Kubernetes. So this is the pod, and so the pod means it will have the one or more containers. So here I'm just specifying it like these many containers. Okay, so when we are specifying the container, what are all the information need, like one is what is the image for the container and which port we need to open it. So that's it. Okay, so for example, here I am just creating some YAML file. I'm just trying to run it. So for
So
example,
in this example, under that part, there is only one container, right?
no,
Or is it like two
no.
containers?
So here, right? So this is the YAML notation, right? The containers
Hmm.
under the container. If there is any multiple collection, right? We will be specifying a hyphen. Okay, which means
So
like
in
this
this
is the
case,
one
two
container.
containers,
Yeah,
right?
this is the one container, and this is the one container, and maybe you can create many containers also. The format is like you have to again open one hyphen, and then the name, image, port, something.
So the port should be like unique
No,
between the
no. For
containers.
example, right? So this is the containers. Okay, I can say like the front end you can access in the 80. Okay, but you cannot mention the same. Maybe the port 80 for this application also, right? Maybe if I'm routing it, where it will go, whether it will go in this container or to this container, so that it should be unique. The container, the
Yeah.
port also should be unique. So then only you can route the traffic, right? So that is why. Okay, so for example, right, I'm just creating the maybe the part. Okay, I'm just because in my system, right, the Kubernetes also it is running. I will be just creating one YAML file, so I'm just copied, right, part
So
dot YAML.
K K8s is like short form for
Yeah,
Kubernetes.
correct. Yeah, K8 means yeah Kubernetes.
K8. Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so I have just copied the YAML file, and I'm just running it to run the deployment, right? So that is kubectl. So this is the Kubernetes, the command line tool. Okay, so in the previous slide we have seen, right, for example, the kubectl, it will interact with the API server in the master node, and then it will do all kind of the deployment, and whatever you want to integrate with whatever you want to interact with the Kubernetes cluster, you want to run the kubectl only. You have to run the kubectl command only. Okay, I am running kubectl apply and -f pod.yml, and it is saying like pod or hyphen the SSS it's created. Okay, now I think just the service is created, but it is not deployed. Okay, so in this one, the only one container is created. Okay, but this one, right? Yeah, so this one it is not deployed. Maybe I will just pull the image whether it is there or not. Mm,
So Nick Chase is someone's private
yeah, yeah,
repository.
yeah. I think whoever writing this article, right? So he may be
Hmm.
having the Docker Hub account. So with the name, so he has pushed some image there.
So
Okay.
that is public to
Yeah, yeah,
everyone.
yeah. So here, right, on top of the NGINX, I think he added some PHP related image, I guess. So that's why he mentioned RSS and PHP NGINX. So on top of NGINX image, he added some PHP, maybe the web application, maybe. Okay, I think maybe since our local, right, it is already having the NGNX, so that is why it is started NGNX alone. Maybe whenever we are running the pod, right, I think it is not by default, it is fetching from the remote repository. So I think so that's why I'm just trying to download, and after that we can run the pod file again. Okay, because when I'm running it, right, it is started the nginx container, because that is the first container, right, but it has to start this container also, but it is not starting it. So that's why I'm just installing, maybe the pulling the image first, and after that we can run the kubectl apply command again.
Okay.
Okay, so now I don't know, maybe why I think only one container is okay. Maybe instead of this one, you
So now we see multiple containers, right?
yeah, I think
Or
current,
multiple
yeah, correct.
images.
Yeah, the multiple containers it is running. Okay, but I don't know. Maybe this is just started. Maybe it is running one by one, or I don't know. But yeah, as you can see, I think currently it is running the two containers. Okay, so this is the first one, and this is the second one.
Two containers are two images. So images within the container, right?
No. So the two containers, the first container is right. So this is running the Nick, Chase, RSS, PHP, Nginx, the particular image. Okay. The second container, right? The second container is running the Nginx image alone. You got it right. So for example, no,
But on the file, it was like upside down, right? Like first it was trying to run the nginx container.
no, that's not the alpha, something alphabetical or something, not here, Amos. Maybe here it is ordering based on I JK, GHI, this means it will come first. Maybe whatever it is created recently, that is coming first. Maybe, but it's not like the ordering or something. But here we are not. Is there no nothing like? I think there is no dependency, right? Maybe this is the first one, but no dependency like that, Amos. Maybe it's not like
Okay.
the first means something, but I think maybe the container ID, right? Maybe that may be the one reason. Maybe here it may be alphabetically ordering based on the container ID. Like here it is starting from 0, right? And then here it is starting
Mhm.
from B. Maybe it may be sorting based on the container ID. Okay, so this is how
Mm.
we are starting, but here, right, so for example this is somewhat very easy only, right? For example, instead, right, you have to run the two docker run command, but currently, right, by just running one command you are running the two containers. Okay, but even that, this is for just an example, but in the real time scenario, right, you will be having the multiple containers in the same application. Okay, so with the single
Mhm.
command you can deploy it. Okay, so the similar way, right? Maybe I will show other example like the replica object in Kubernetes. I think replica set and the replica controller, both of them same thing. I think the replication controller they have used previously. I think currently they have removed. I guess I think from now onwards or something we have to use replica set. But both of them, right? It's just we are going to specify the replica for the particular pod. I guess. Okay. Now I'm going to replica set. So I think everything YAML file only Amazon Maprat. Okay. Replica controller, replica set. Yeah, so here, right, you will be specifying the kind as replica set, and here something, yeah, metadata we are specifying some manageability and specification, right? This is the this needs to be the three replicas. And then so here, right, here we are running only one container, so this will be replicated thrice actually. So with the same thing, right, it will run thrice. So that's what the replica they are meaning it. Okay, the same container it will be running in the three instances. Even the request also, right? Even if it is going to the only one, maybe even we are hitting the any request to the particular container, it will equally distribute across the multiple containers, which means like currently it is like three replicas. Okay, so for example, yeah, here also, right, the same thing, like you can, we can just uh,
Notepad.
okay, yeah. Replica, is there any? Yeah, replica dot. Okay, yeah, I think the spelling mistake. Okay, here it is created. Maybe it will take some time. Maybe almost, maybe to.
Mhm.
Yeah, here it is, right? So because the image is not there, so that's why it is started very late, I guess. So similar, like maybe here also in the, even it is not showing any kind of logging here, but in the behind the scene, right, if there is no image it will download, and after that it is coming into the running state. Okay, I think so far it is running the only the two images, and I think it will take some time, maybe in the meantime, right, maybe I will just download the image. I think this time, right, this is downloading from some other registry. It's not a Docker Hub. This is something like a Google Container Registry or something. I don't know. Maybe this is the open source or not. Maybe we will just try to run the command like Docker pull. So now you understood, right, Amos? But this here it is, right. This is some other registry. It's not like a Docker Hub.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I don't know. Maybe if it is the public one, we can still access it. Uh,
it looks like it is doing something, right?
yeah. Yeah. So in the meantime, Amos, so the same concept only, Amos. Okay, the deployment or uh, the replica, right? Maybe yeah, you can try some other thing like the services config map, even the config map, right? So I said, right. So that is something like key value pair. You will be specifying the configuration there. So inside the container, you can utilize the configuration something. So there will be some code. Maybe the developer has to write, and then they can read the configuration from the config map. Okay, config maps example, configure a part to user config map. Yeah, here the config map, the game dot properties, UI dot properties. So here you can see almost like the enemies equal to aliens, lives 3. So those are all the something like application configuration. They are storing it here.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so they can use those configuration in their part. So there may be some code they have to write, and then so they can access the what is the lives, maybe the lives, right? Maybe in the dev environment they might provide the 2, and the production they might give 3, because it will be changed, right? It depends upon the environment, or maybe it can be common also. Okay, maybe something. Okay, so yeah, here the data allowed equal to true. So this is how they can create it. Yeah, so we will run. Yeah, I think here it is now. So this is yeah. So here you can see, right. So we have provided the 3 instances. So that's why it is running the same image with the different container ID in the 3 times. Okay, so this is the first one, the second one, and then the third one. So all of them the same image only. You got it right, Amos and Mebrod. So because we have provided the replica number of replica as 3, so that's why with the same container it is running thrice. So based on your need, you can increase it or decrease the number of replicas.
So this is what, like the scaling up or down?
Yeah. No, maybe here, maybe still right. The scaling that I have said right, but this one right. So you cannot change it in the file actually. For file you can't do that, but maybe by attaching the new node or something you can do that. I think yeah, still right. Scaling. Um I don't know, maybe that has to configure in the replica set or replica controller. Yeah, we'll see that one. Um, so here, right, the deployment, and here the request, the memory and CPU they are providing, and limit. Okay, here the number of replica as 1, but how where they are specifying the scaling horizontal auto scale deployment, CPU percentage 50, minimum 1, maximum 4. Mm, mm, infinite calls. Yeah, I think mostly I'm also here, right? So they are just running the command kubectl autoscale deployment. Okay, so here the CPU percentage, whenever the your container the CPU percentage, right, it is going above 50 percentage. At the time, it will add one by one instances. I think the minimum instances would be 1. The maximum till it reaches 4, so it will use the calculation logic. But yeah, after that, right, it won't create any new container. Okay, so still fourth instance, right, it will see the CPU percentage, but once it is reached the maximum, even the CPU percentage is increased, it won't do anything. Okay, so that's why here we are specifying min and max, but it is not with the, I think the uh, like the replica set they are not doing it. So with the kubectl auto scale, with that they are, with this command they are achieving the auto scaling. So it's not with the replica set and the replica controller.
Yeah. So for the replica, it's like instead of like
Yeah.
putting the code like 3 times, that's what we are mentioning.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. And
replica.
also, right. So here, there also they specified like the request and response. But the same thing, right? So here the CPU percentage 50 and min and max they have provided, right? So the same thing we can configure it in the YAML file also. maybe we need to configure in deployment or some other YAML file. There are many objects, right? So in any one of those, we have to configure it.
My
How
brother
to?
has to mute.
Oh, okay. Uh,
Yeah, now I am.
okay. No
Thanks,
problem.
my brother.
You locked me out.
How to configure the CPU percent in here the container, the limit is resources limit CPU1 request. Okay, arg CPU. Specify CPU request that too big for nodes. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So here. Yeah, I'm also here what they are trying to say, right? So for example, initially it will request only the point 0.5 CPU, and if any the CPU the maybe it's need more CPU at the time, it will go beyond go till 1. So after that it won't request any kind of new CPU. It's just to save the maybe the CPU resource. Okay, but here they are not achieving this one, but just to better utilizing the resources they are doing it. So if any request or anything is coming at the time, they can run with the 0.5 CPU. If it is coming any more number of request something, they can configure the limit. So I think something like maximum limit something. And here in this one, right, so how to configure the, yeah, min and max. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm also here, right? So they are not providing based on the CPU resource, but whenever the load is increased, right? So they can get the new resource till the maximum of 800 M. Okay, but they are
What
not
is that
specifying like.
unit?
Hello.
No, what is that unit EMS represents for?
Like the CPU mostly they will say like a clock speed. Okay. 1000
1,000
of a
square.
core. So this was
Okay,
yeah, there
this is
is.
way beyond what I can understand.
Mm, yeah, actually, right. So our system mandal it, having some 2 core and 4 core, and I think they are dividing something. I think for us, right. I think this is mine is 2 core CPU. Okay, like CPU, the unit suffix M stands for thousandth of a core. Okay, so this resource object specify that content. Okay.
Yeah, this is more for the net admins to figure it
Yeah,
out
yeah,
what
yeah.
kind of resource they need.
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe even we also need to maybe design, right? Maybe for the particular
Mm.
application, how much CPU it requires. Yeah, but mostly, right, in those scenario, right? I think the monitoring tool will help you help us, Amos. I think there you can see the spike and all, whether we are utilizing the 100% or the 50% something. But if you are reaching there are graph is showing above the 100%, right? So then definitely we need to increase the CPU usage. Maybe the CPU limit we have to increase it. I think by this way, even if you are not confident on this terminology and all, yeah, maybe by just understanding the monitoring tool, yeah, we can see that maybe whether we are exceeding the threshold or something.
So now we are talking about trial and error. So in the case of trial and error, right? Like once after we create the container, how do you come and change the configuration for the container?
Yeah, you can just again, right? You can again update the YAML file, and then you can run the kubectl apply command. That's it. So it will be updated automatically.
So is it not going to create like a new images
No,
or
it
some
won't.
new
Yeah,
containers?
yeah, but it definitely a new container only, but it will gradually do the down and also. For example, right, you are having the 4 containers currently, 4 instances, replica maybe. Okay, so for example,
Okay.
if you are applying means what the maybe the Kubernetes it will do is, so it will first down the 2 containers, okay, and then it will deploy the new 2 containers. And once it is the 2 is currently up and running, then it will down the other 2 containers. It won't do like all the 4 at a one stretch, which if you are doing all 4 at a one stretch, right, so that if there is any request, there won't be any new container to receive the request. So that is something like downtime, right? So those capabilities also the Kubernetes will handle. You got it right,
Okay.
Amos. So let's say for
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Theoretically, I can understand, but I don't know
Yeah,
practically
yeah,
how
the
they are
practically
maintaining this
also, yeah,
orchestration.
practically also, so for example, right, maybe currently, right, this one, the maybe we can run this one, the replica, right? If I am running the replica now, so again it has to, so for example, I will change something.
Yeah. So already we have 3
Yeah, one,
containers.
yeah, notepad. So here, right, I will say what we can change. Maybe I don't know whether they will have version
So if
4
you
or
now
not.
do like a replicas instead of 3, 4, if you make, right?
Okay, maybe that one also I can do. Okay, and now now I'm just running it. I think it is not coming. Maybe I will open one more CMD and then Docker. Yes. So it will show like the first 2 only it will run initially, and after that only it will start. But I think by just seeing the status, right, I think we can understand something. So, I think here, right.
So previous 3 are only there, I guess, right?
Okay,
So
but
if you
we did,
see the
yeah,
container, right?
yeah. So for example, right, we didn't change the any image version. That is why. So for example, because they don't need to recreate the new instance, right? Because all of them are already running in the same version, so that it has to create a only one new container. That's it. So that it don't need to delete the container and then needs to start it again, because the same image only. But if I'm changing the image, the version, it definitely it will kill all one by one, and then it will start. So you got it right,
But
Amos.
now at least now we should have seen like the 4th container,
Yeah,
right?
I think in the back end it may be running. Yeah, I think currently you can see, right, about a minute ago.
Okay. So the previous 3 laid there, it didn't touch those 3,
Yeah,
and then the new
yeah,
one is
yeah.
created.
Because right, we just changed the replica number only. We didn't change anything on the image version. So that is why, because there is no change in the application, right? So you don't need to recreate the maybe the existing maybe the
So
container.
yeah, one more time, if we change it to a 2, right? Like it will
Yeah,
kill like 2 of the container
yeah,
then.
yeah. But that time also, right, it will just delete 2, but another 2 will be there with the same 14 minutes ago. You got it right, but
Okay.
there is no change in the application, so that you don't need to recreate anything. But if I am changing the v2, right, okay, so that it has to recreate all the containers, so it will delete all because the application itself it is changed.
Okay.
Okay. Mm,
So what is the full form for PS?
maybe the processes something. I think the in the
Okay.
Linux also, right? I think you can run the PS, so it will list a number of threads or processes. Okay.
Mhm.
So here, right? So this one is first. Okay.
That's the fourth one.
No, no. I think it is not deploying anything. Still, I think first it has to download the image version, right? The version 2 may not be there in my local repository. So it
Okay.
has to first download, right? I think it is. I think it will download first. Uh,
So what is it list command to
the L
see?
the ls is for the listing the files inside in the current directory.
Okay.
I think still it is running or deploying in the backend. Maybe. I think it is downloading, I guess. I think that's why it is showing already exist, or maybe the base image already maybe there, so that's why. Uh,
Yeah, even for the version 3, we downloaded it, right? Like manually.
yeah, I think I have
From
downloaded
we
manually,
pulled it.
but in the behind the scene, right, it will download.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think still it is not updating. Maybe can I run the this replica command now?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Now,
Mm,
since you
yeah,
downloaded the version 2
yeah.
unchanged.
I think still it is not updating.
Maybe since we have the latest version instead of V2,
Hmm.
so that's what it
No,
might not be saying that.
but definitely right. But we
Marley,
need the
kind of
old
like
one
a
only.
rollback if you are
Yeah,
doing. Yeah.
yeah. I think here, right? I think the same. I think the 4 version is there. Okay, from the front end. Um, why it is still not taking? Maybe I didn't change and commit. I think here it is saying, right, the unchanged means there is no change. Uh, okay, maybe they won't have any changes between the V2 and V3 apart from the tagging name. Maybe that also possible,
Hmm.
Amos.
Okay.
Maybe we will provide V5 something. But I think still it's not taking.
Maybe change the replica to 2. Let's see whether it is killing 2 of the container or not.
Okay. Uh, replica and then okay. I think here we are not editing it. I think where we have changed.
Oh, we are
Oh.
changing the pod.
Yeah, yeah. I think we are not changing here, Amos. So sorry, that's the
Yeah,
problem.
right. Yeah. Now I get it.
I think V3, right? I think that is correct only. We only wrong.
No, from V3 we changed to V2. That's what we see there.
Yeah. I think from
And
V2
after
to
that we downloaded the V2.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I think somewhere I went to pod.yml file, but here it is right. It is configured. Earlier it was unchanged.
Yeah.
So currently, right, running. Okay, I think here we are. Yeah, four replicas are there. Yeah, we'll see now. I think it will delete one by one. Maybe I don't know. So the version it is already there or not.
I think this is the initial version V3 we had, right?
Okay. So later only we changed to V2.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the
Okay.
beginning it was
Maybe
V3.
we will verify with Docker images. Like yeah, V2 is there almost. So again are we wrong? The replica okay 4 3 only. Mm,
So
it's,
now maybe try 5 and see whether you can pull the 5,
mm,
whether they have the 5 open.
okay, maybe we will give some time almost. Maybe in the backend they are trying to do something. But because currently, right, I think we changed and even here also it responded like configured. But earlier and all it
Correct.
is said like unchanged, but here it said like configured. Okay.
Okay, maybe tomorrow we can check back, right?
Yeah, 1 minute, only 2 minutes. So we'll just
Yeah.
updating replica. Maybe the replica set into. Okay, I think still it is not working, Amos. Yeah, okay, Amos. Maybe we will
Okay.
see tomorrow. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Right.
Bye. Good night.
Okay. Right. Thank you. Good night.